What is going on, everyone? Nostalgia 925 coming at you with yet another forum battle. In this particular video, considering that it has been a while, we're going to take the forum battle into a completely different level. For starters, we will compare Frank West from the Dead Rising series to Jade of the Beyond Good and Evil game. I do admit that I grew more familiar with Jade for several reasons. I'm going to stay as neutral as possible in their comparison to see who would be the best reporter. To keep it simple, we're going to compare the Frank West of the first Dead Rising game to Jade of Beyond Good and Evil 1. I think that this would seem fairest. Now, without further ado, let us get right into it. I figured that we'd need some equal footing in order to compare both characters. That is why I looked on the internet for an article that would give us the criteria needed to determine the quality of the reporters, in our case, Jade and Frank West. I used the article with the title, The Qualities of a Good Newspaper Journalist. You will find a link to it in the description box. I could have looked for an article that talked about the best qualities of a photojournalist, but those criteria are only about the creativity and imagination. While Jade and Frank West really want to bring news, they try to use their camera to expose either a government or whatnot. That's why I preferred to opt for the article that I will place in the description box. That article that I ended up using gave us 5 criteria that we will discuss and link them immediately to the individuals involved in this battle. The 5 criteria that I ordered in my own personal hierarchy from less important to important are the following: 5. Knowledge of technology, 4. Ethics and integrity, 3. Expert communication skills, 2. Investigative skills, and last but not least, 1. Courage and boldness. Let me warn you that I have a certain way of giving grades that don't really make sense. It might be that both individuals get a point, but that's only when the both of them display similar qualities. It might also be that only one get a point. That is only when the quality of one individual by far exceeds the one of the other. Let us start with knowledge of technology. When it comes to reporting, journalists follow and use social media, internet and all of these networks in order to provide immediate and transparent coverage of happening events. This might form a big problem, considering that some states might have ideas to block the internet or what social media may be there. A good example would be North Korea, whose government are ready to go at extreme length to shut down every connection there is with other countries. I myself am originally from Congo, and during the elections in the years 2018-2019, there was an internet shutdown of 20 days. How will we compare Jade and Frank West on this matter? I think it would be best to check out the efforts being put in order to find ways to make the news travel to the ears and eyes of the consumer. When it comes to Frank West, let me quote the following from an article in the website deadrising.com. I quote, "Frank West is a freelance photographer and photojournalist who has covered many world events, wars, and other big stories. Looking for the next big scoop, he stumbles onto some strange events happening in the small town of Willamette, Colorado. While not the most polished and professional person in his field, he is strong, genuinely kind and decent, and always operates on instinct." Unquote. Frank West is a photojournalist and uses his camera to show the truth. However, you have to know that he is a freelance journalist. The definition of freelance journalist says the following: the occupation of reporting, writing, editing, photographing, or broadcasting news, or of conducting any news organization as a business. This means that Frank West investigates and reports on issues, events, and trends that he thinks might get the attention of the public. However, reporting on things that might interest the public and making sure that the public gets your news are 2 separate battlefields. Here is another quote that seems quite interesting. "Frank's research style, articles, and photos are all unregulated and sold to the highest bidder." Being aware of this quote, I can tell with certainty that the news that Frank West is covering may or may not reach a good part of the public. When we talk about news articles or photos being sold to the highest bidder, who says that the highest bidder will actually broadcast that news, especially when you put the idea in mind that news corporations, which could potentially be a highest bidder, may work for a corrupt government, in which case chances exist that the story won't be shown at all. On the other hand, when we look at the Beyond Good and Evil franchise, we could say that there are some similarities with Jade and Frank West, however on some aspect the difference is quite big. Let me quote the following. Jade eventually gains a love and job as a photographer and started her own business, Jade Reporting, and gets money on commission from various companies that are interested in her photographic and reporting skills. This would mean that Jade, like Frank West, is also self-employed and works as a freelancer. However, due to certain well-defined circumstances, Jade ends up working for the Iris network. I really don't want to spoil those that haven't played Beyond Good and Evil, but to tell you briefly, Jade lives in the planet Hillis, where war is the only subject of discussion. In that planet, there is an organization called the Alpha Section. They are an interplanetary mercenary group that claimed to be heroes and became more legitimate in the eyes of the people. The Alpha Section becoming more legitimate, it enabled them to gain more credibility and ultimately leaving the Hellion armies and the governor's power diminished and unregarded. So Jade ends up joining the Iris network after having doubts about the Alpha Section's claim of being heroes. She believes that the only thing that will bring the war to an end is by learning more about the secretive elite organization and exposing them with her camera. The Iris network that hired Jade works as an underground rebel organization, also seen as terrorists in the eyes of the state, and they try to broadcast uncensored information regarding the betrayal of key military, governmental and corporate entities through their newspaper Iris and also via the television, which can reach a bigger audience. The first criteria of knowledge and technology, I am more than convinced that Jade gets the point thanks to the Iris network, that in the end is branded as a terrorist group for a reason. The members of the group easily risk their lives in order to bring the exposing news to the people and bring about real change. Now let us check the fourth criteria, which is the one of ethics and integrity. I can already say that both Jade and Frank West get a point on this matter. Both are, or at least try to be fair, objective and honest when it comes to their reports. Sure, Frank West has a personality that makes him rather visit those dangerous places to satisfy his desire for adventure than out of any sense of journalistic curiosity. Still, both Jade and Frank West are real when it comes to their integrity. Both get a point, meaning that Jade is leading. The third aspect would be expert communication skills. According to the article about the qualities of a good newspaper journalist, a journalist must be a skilled communicator to interview sources and write in-depth stories. And as far as we know, Frank West was also involved with articles. It hasn't explicitly been mentioned that he wrote an article. It might have been that his pictures ended up in an article, but you know what, I will give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that he also writes articles. Jade on the other hand does plenty, but as far as I know, she does not write. She only takes pictures, whether to expose the government or to show endangered species, and that's about it when it comes to the reporter/journalistic capabilities she displayed. Frank West gets the point, and thus Jade and the star of Dead Rising have the same point. Next aspect to be discussed will be the investigative skills. And the article says the following, and I quote, "Good newspaper journalists have an analytical mind and base stories on evidence and facts, not emotion. They are astute observers and instinctively sense when there is much more to a story than what is being shared at a news conference, for example. Critical thinking skills are crucial when weighing conflicting accounts of an incident and assessing the credibility of sources." I have to tell you that the investigative skills is the aspect that gave me the biggest trouble, because both Frank West and Jade have great investigative skills. However, I guess I will have to give a point to Jade just because the following is written about Frank West. While he is not the most polished and professional person in his field, he is strong, genuinely kind and decent, and always operates on instinct. Now, Frank West operating on instinct isn't really the aspect that bothers me. In fact, the article that I used says that it is good to act on instinct. But what bothered me is the fact that there is written that he is not the most polished and professional person in his field. That is how the sources portray him. Jade, on the other hand, has the following description. She is driven through her adventure by her desire to uncover the truth and her great sense of justice. She'd rather have both sides of the story rather than follow someone blindly, which makes her suspicious towards certain characters' motives. I do believe that this sounds more appealing. To try and have both sides of a story is even a thing adults with tons of life experience fail to do from time to time. Jade has that critical way of thinking and tries to analyze all aspects of a problem to get a better idea of what is actually going on. Now, I am not saying that Frank West doesn't share the same abilities. To be honest, I don't even doubt that as a person he might also think that way. However, it is difficult to defend him when you know that he always operates on instincts, which can lead to serious and big disasters. Last aspect we're going to discuss will be the one of courage and boldness. Let me take another paragraph of the article. Good journalists push themselves to dig deeper and ask tough questions. They put personal feelings aside to boldly unearth the truth about newsworthy people, places and events. Courage is vital to investigating what is happening at the scene. They are not satisfied making phone calls from a comfortable desk in a newsroom when covering major happenings. This reminds me of all those journalists that go to war zones and risk their lives. I would like to say personally, with all of you who are watching as my witnesses, I would like to say that I don't even know how to properly thank those journalists that risk their lives and even today still are risking their lives in order to make the public aware of what is happening to the world. Truly one of the most noble jobs I personally know. And I have so much respect for those that are doing the profession and even for those that are planning on becoming one. Both Jade and Frank West get a point. Both characters risk their lives in order to take the pictures that will make the public aware of what is happening. However, even though I gave a point to both Frank and Jade, I would like to tell you that Jade is the most realistic character out of the two when it comes to taking risks. Frank West is a wrestler and knows how to handle himself in a fight. The man fights a huge quantity of zombies without breaking a sweat. He does that with style, with fun, giving me the feeling that his life never really was in danger in the first place. Jade, on the other hand, is a character that heavily relies on infiltration and strategy in order to bypass her enemies, in order to bypass the cameras. And like in real life, she encounters guards that are simply too strong for her. So she has no other choice but to be discreet and calm in order to find her way to those places she can take a picture of. So I guess that the winner is Jade. Now, of course, if you guys have reasons to believe why Frank West should be the one winning, you can always write down your opinion in the comment section. I can't wait to read them. Also, I have a couple of Beyond Good and Evil videos that I really want you to check out. I will put the videos in the description box. Please take your time to check them out. I really loved exploring the Beyond Good and Evil world, even though those belonged to my first videos and I feel a bit awkward showing them. But anyway, you have to start from somewhere. Do not forget to subscribe to the Nostalgia 9to5 crew. We talk about all sorts of things on this channel, may it be gaming, may it be love, may it be Digimon or forum battles, which you can all find in different playlists that are always updated. That way you can always catch up on newer and older videos. And if you have some time guys, follow me on Instagram if you want to see my other life aside of being a YouTuber. Simply write "Oh how new J2" and you will find it.